Hey gang, it's JC and this is your Daily Dose for Tuesday, August 31st, 2010. A cooperative venture with Mind Active in beautiful downtown Brentwood. Archives, top of the page, Dave Murray's weather forecast, and the audio for the Daily Dose on iTunes every day. And I want to say happy birthday to my sister up in beautiful downtown. Well, I'm not going to tell you the name of the city because you're all freaks and you'll look her up or something, but she's in the Chicago area and she's having a birthday today, and I love my sister Nancy. Happy birthday. We control nothing of our destiny as we sit here and just try to make the best out of a 15-month paid vacation. I know it's driving everybody crazy, but, you know, it's the way it is. By the way, we were checking some of the analytics on the website, and you know, obviously the majority of people watching the Daily Dose are from the St. Louis area, but I found 3 people watching in the United Kingdom, 2 in Germany, 1 in Japan, 1 in the Netherlands, Canada, Malaysia, Turkey, and 1 guy watching in Estonia. And I have no idea where Estonia is, but I hope you're enjoying the show. All right. Remember Stephen D.C.? Yeah, I know. It was a nightmare. D.C., lovely wife, Anna, reportedly in a jail in Marion, Illinois. All sorts of potential fraud charges. And the question is, how much longer before he is in jail too? I'm guessing not much longer. A doctor in Singapore says if you add up all the time a guy spends climaxing over the course of his life, it comes out to only 3 hours. Hell, I think I had 3 hours total just when I was 14. Glenn Beck says he regrets calling the president a racist, especially since calling him a Muslim seems to work so much better. Some witnesses, by the way, claim the crowd at that rally that Glenn Beck was presiding over in Washington over the weekend was more diverse than reported. Not only were there racists, there were bigots, homophobes, and Nazis as well. Glee, biggest show in television right now. They were involved in the big open at the Emmys the other night, Jimmy Fallon. Anyhow, they've released 5 soundtracks from the show in the past 10 months, and they sold pretty well. The kids are getting almost nothing. The performers getting almost nothing. Corey Monteith, one of the performers in the show, says he has seen $400 from an album that he was on going to #1. Yeah, well, welcome to show business, kids. Movie attendance was down to its lowest point in 5 years this past summer, and yet revenue hit an all-time high. The tickets cost more. The business model seems to be grab it while you can because we know that the end is near. Pretty much radio. Troy Polamalu, the Pittsburgh Steelers safety, has had his hair insured for $1 million. He's a product spokesman for the Head and Shoulders. I talked to John Hewlett about this, about us having our hair insured, and it would obviously have to be prorated quite a bit. Tiger Woods just bought a new bachelor pad in New York. You should see the place. And if you're a white, skanky cocktail waitress, you probably will. Justin Bieber, getting tired of this kid, wants to remake Grease, and he wants to play Danny Zuko. He wants to play Danny, John Travolta's role from the movie, and he wants Miley Cyrus to play Sandy. Somebody please stop Justin Bieber. He also wants to do a remake of Back to the Future. Now, I was thinking about this, though, and I thought to myself, let me go back and try to remember some of the teen idols that got the Justin Bieber treatment. And if you go back to the 60s, Easy Come and Easy Go, that was your Bobby Sherman. Then you have Ba 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 Ba. You had David Cassidy, and then later Sean Cassidy, and then Leif Garrett, who the last time I saw him on Entertainment Tonight, he was on his 10th stint on methadone. So it's the music industry, folks. Roger Clemens, looking like he's going to play this thing out to the very end, and I can't believe it, because you know his lawyers are telling him, Roger, you can't beat this, okay? We know that you've been getting preferential treatment and people have been getting out of your way, and you've been sort of just cruising through life without any worry of any kind since you were about 8 years old, okay? But these are the feds. You don't mess with the feds, and you're going to get nailed on this. You're going to end up in jail. He's facing 30 years for lying to a congressional subcommittee investigating performance-enhancing drugs in Major League Baseball. He would probably get 15 to 21 months, which, you know, pretty long time for guys living in a mansion. jury selection beginning April 5th. The first week of baseball season. In the meantime, pretty much right in the heart of spring training next year, Barry Bonds' trial scheduled to begin on March 21st. Speaking of sports, I'm going to tell you about 14-year-old Chaz Jordan. Chaz Jordan, 14 years old, playing pee-wee football down near Tampa, Florida. And, coaches started saying, we don't know too much about you. Chaz? Well, my parents are dead. Oh, we're really sorry. In the school, playing pee-wee football, it's associated with some sort of a school program. And they start doing a little background on the kid to try to find out, more about him. And it turns out they couldn't find anything because it was an assumed identity. He's 21. He's 21 years old playing with 14-year-olds on pee-wee football. His real name, Julius Thratz. And it turned out, apparently, he just wasn't good enough to play semi-pro. And so he tried to play pee-wee football. Oh, man. All right, we spent 40 minutes on a plane on the ground in Oakland over the weekend. And, they get you on the plane. They know before they even start boarding you. They know that plane is not going to take off. But they get everybody on the plane, and they get everybody strapped in, and then they say, we're not going anywhere. And not only do you not have any air conditioning, you don't have any air. We're sitting in the middle of California, in the middle of summer, on a runway in the sun, and it's 90 degrees outside, and we're just sitting there roasting. This should all be against the law. I know there's a new passenger rights bill that went into effect, but this is the closest thing to false imprisonment that you could have, and they're getting away with it. It should be against the law. You just said, plus we had a baby in the seat behind us. All right, Saturday Night Live has added 3 new cast members. One of them is Taran Killam, who's been a cast member on Mad TV. His girlfriend, by the way, plays Robin on How I Met Your Mother. 2 other people that they're adding to Saturday Night Live, Paul Britton and Vanessa Bayer. These are 2 comedians out of Chicago from Second City. You've not heard of them, but you've not heard of a lot of people that came out of either Second City or the Groundlings in California. Last week, Will Forte announced that he was leaving, and beyond that, there's been no official word on cast. The official Dancing with the Stars cast is pretty much identical to the one that had been rumored. Bristol Palin, David Hasselhoff, from the Jersey Shore, Mike the Situation Sorrentino, Kurt Warner, Rick Fox, former NBA player, was married to Vanessa Williams, Brandy, the singer, Michael Bolton, no talent ass clown, Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing, Florence Henderson. No, wait a minute, how's Jennifer Grey? She's practically a professional dancer. All right, Florence Henderson, who's 76 years old, from the Hills, Audrina Patridge, or as Channel 5 said yesterday, Partridge, and even put an R in the name when they put it up on screen. They just put an R in because somebody decided, no, this is probably a typo. It's Partridge. No, it's Patridge. Nice going, Channel 5. Comedian Margaret Cho and actor Kyle Massey. Did anybody tell them they're supposed to be Dancing with the Stars? All right, today is Celebrity Tuesday, and today we're going to talk about Steve Martin. Now, I finished his book while I was on this trip to Napa. And again, if you missed JC's Daily Dose yesterday and you're either thinking about going for the first time or maybe you're taking another trip out to Napa, please go back and look at yesterday's Daily Dose because I did as much of a comprehensive report on our trip. And the nice thing about it is when people say, did you go here, did you go here, did you go here? I always say no. They go, well, where did you go? And then I tell them the places we went to, and they hadn't heard of any of them. And that's a good thing because our trip was so good, and the wineries we went to were so incredible that I think that what happens is people go out to Napa, and they just get trapped into the same old tourist trap stuff, and so they end up not really seeing any of the cool stuff that we saw. So go back and look at that thing yesterday. You can check it out. Anyhow, yeah, Steve Martin's book is called Born Standing Up, and it got great reviews, and for very good reason. It was absolutely sensational. You know, I read all of this celebrity stuff and most of the biographies and even the unauthorized ones. I read most of that stuff. This book is almost painfully honest. And it's not as in like sordid where he goes, and then I did this and then I did that. It's just sort of more along the lines of what he was thinking. And what a person is thinking can sometimes be very private. And Steve Martin lays a lot of it out on the line. He talks so much about failing, because this guy failed a lot and big time for so many years. It would have deterred most people, but he failed for the better part of a decade and failed miserably, where it didn't even look like there was any chance that he was ever going to be successful in show business, and we know how it all turned out. Now, he talks a lot about girls, but the most interesting part of the book for me, and I don't know why this was, I'm going to have to ask around a little bit, but there was virtually no mention of Bernadette Peters. He was with her for what had to be a better part of a decade. Victoria Tennant, his first wife, and it doesn't really talk about any of these people much at all. One of the more interesting things in the book, by the way, he talks about the fact that a guy that he was associated with, who was sort of a business manager type, discovered the Allman Brothers at a bar in St. Louis. I never even knew that story. So you can read about that too. But, you know, as you know, when I do this Celebrity Tuesday thing, I focus on somebody that I actually got to know a little bit. Not somebody that I just interviewed for 10 minutes and then walked away. This was somebody that I had gotten to know at least a little bit. And the story goes all the way back to the mid-1970s when a singer-songwriter friend of mine from the Chicago area by the name of Megan McDonough was playing a gig in Dubuque, Iowa at Loras College. And she said, "I'm opening for Steve Martin." Now, this was right at the very beginning of his stardom, just when he really broke through and was still playing sort of, you know, little places. And I think Loras College, I don't think there could have been 400 or 500 people in the place, and that was fully sold out. So she says, you know, come on to the show. It's like 3-hour drive, 3.5-hour drive from Chicago. Come on, and I'll introduce you to Steve after the show. So sure enough, we went to the show. Megan opened the show. Steve Martin did his act, and so I go backstage after the show, and one of the lines that Steve Martin was famous for back in those days was, "People come to me all the time and say, 'Steve, how can you be so fucking funny?'" So, of course, I walk backstage. There he is, sitting there in a little room, and I walk up to him and go, "Steve, how can you be so fucking funny?" I hold out my hand, and there was just like this sinking look on his face, like, oh boy, here we go. And it was sort of my first introduction. Again, I was like 22 at the time, and he's an idiot. And it was my introduction to the idea that people who are performing oftentimes are not anything like what they are when they're off stage. And so we actually did have a very nice chat, and he signed a picture for me. It was very nice about it and everything like that, but you got the idea that all he wanted to do was get back to the hotel and try to nail Megan, which I was told later he did attempt to do. She didn't cave, by the way. Later, I interviewed him for a movie called My Blue Heaven, and then an interview for Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. But most interestingly, back in the 60s and even part of the 70s, he was very close friends with Super Dave Osborne, my buddy Bob Einstein, who I told you I just talked to last week. They wrote together on Sonny and Cher and the Smothers Brothers. I would describe Steve Martin as not warm. Some people call him aloof, but it's not in a creepy way or a mean way. He's just distant and somewhat trapped by his celebrity. And when you go back and read this book, Born Standing Up, you'll find out some of the things that were going on in his head, and that probably contributed to it. You could spend hours with Steve Martin and probably never really get to know him. That's just the way he is. He keeps a very close stable of friends, and that's pretty much it. If you're not in that group, you're done. Anyhow, the book is called Born Standing Up, and I highly recommend it. All right, JC's Video Village today, back to 1986 for it's actually a 5-part series, but I'm showing you the first 3 parts we did back when Wheel of Fortune was being viewed by 42 million people a day. So go back and take a look at that on the Video Village. The Wayback Machine, Art Holiday doing sports back in 1986. JC's Eye Candy, those trick basketball shot videos are all over the internet. We've got somebody doing it with bowling today, okay? So you can check that out on JC's Eye Candy. All right, that's it. JC's Daily Dose for Tuesday, August 31st, 2010, a cooperative venture with Mind Active in beautiful downtown Brentwood. That's it. In the meantime, we've beaten this one to death. Have a good one. See you later. Bye.